picture, and she didn't understand why I wanted to look like that. But the reason is right here, because I wanted to be a wrestler, and I wanted to be just like the Butcher, and all the hardcore legends, like the Rottens, and all these other guys, Balls, New Jack. I wanted to be just like them. And I got another match with Abby, and I'm going to show the world what I'm all about.
20 years ago, I just watched WHT.
It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Too many people giving me agita. I got a stomach ache. I haven't felt this bad since I watched fucking QT Marshall. Oh, God. How's everybody doing? It's Sunday night. Wow, 26th of October. Halloween is right around the corner, and I was looking at some Halloween photos from yesteryear. Yours truly, people within professional wrestling. And, I think probably the one that I got a kick out of the most was the former NXT Women's Champion, JC Jane, going as Vince McMahon like 2 years ago. Yeah, she did a damn good job, man. She dressed up as Vince McMahon. Oh, my God, there's so many. Go look out for the Drew McIntyre Shining pictures. Epic. Where he found that costume, I will never know, because I've checked. I mean, you would never catch me wearing that, but go seek out the Drew McIntyre Shining pictures. So, how's everybody doing tonight? We're gonna have a fun show. We got a lot of stuff to get into. I want to shout out everybody who is live. Let me check all my settings, make sure everything is good here. I think we are good to go. For the last 3 weeks, 5-10 minutes in, we get this little glitch for a few seconds. I don't know why. Little gremlin is trying to screw us up, but I think we'll be good tonight. Want to shout out everybody who's live. Shout out to everybody on the archive. Shout out to Todd Pelkey, who became a member of the family tonight. So much love to you, my friend. Shout out to all our channel members here on YouTube, our patrons. Everybody helps keep the brand alive, keep the cause, keep the culture going. We're definitely going to get into some stuff tonight. Now, usually, Sunday nights are your night. They're always your night, but tonight it's extra yours, because I, for the most part, sit back and whatever our live family wants to talk about, that's what we talk about. You want to talk about old school, we talk about old school. You want to talk about new school, we talk about new school. You want to talk about New Japan? Probably not. I don't watch much Japanese wrestling, but I will tell you this much. This discussion is something I've been wanting to do for weeks. And I'm kind of glad that I waited, because I wanted to see Wrestle Dream. And, if you guys remember my predictions for Wrestle Dream, I said that something was going to happen in the Moxley-Darby Allin match that might even be attempted murder. Go back and listen to my predictions if you don't believe me. I thought it would be the opposite, though. I thought Moxley would be the one close to death and quitting. I didn't think it would be a Scorpion Deathlock to do it. But the thing is, the fish tank spot, we touched on it last week, but still I wanted to wait. I don't know why. And then this happened. Sarah Stock versus the AEW sickos. For people that keep asking me, we removed Luchasaurus from that infamous photo and replaced it with Kenny Omega because of Kenny Omega's distasteful handling towards Gail Kim, expressing her opinion about garbage wrestling. And by the way, speaking of garbage wrestling, I found a clip of CM Punk not too long ago talking about ultra-violent wrestling, his thoughts on garbage wrestling. I'm going to share with you. Did it age well? I don't know. I'll let you hear. If anybody tuned into the history show, you already know the answer. But something told me just to wait. Let's wait. And if you remember my reaction to the fish tank spot with Darby Allin, I was not offended by it. My only issue with it was Darby Allin was flailing like a fish. You know, I mean, I've never had someone try to drown me, but I would think if my wife tried to shove my head in a bathtub, or if any of you out there, you know, tried to kidnap me and shove my head in the ocean, you know, tell me where the password is, motherfucker. I seriously probably would be grabbing your hands, doing whatever I can, pulling your hair, raking your eyes out, you know, grabbing your nose. If you didn't shave your nostril hairs, I'd probably pull your nostril hairs. Tell me that doesn't hurt. Tell me that doesn't hurt. I do everything I fucking can to get your hands off my head. Darby Allin flails like a fish. It's like he's doing Superman. He said, look, Mom, I'm in the air. Look, I'm flying. I'm flying. It's like a retarded Superman. Someone's getting drowned and they put their hands behind their back. This is a new dance. That was my only issue with it. You know, if you're going to simulate something, make it believable. Brian Danielson gets a plastic bag over his head, and it looks like the scene from The Naked Gun when Leslie Nielsen gets the pillow thrown in his face. Instead of Leslie Nielsen just throwing the pillow aside, the fuck are you doing? I'm starting to think. I said this, I think, on Patreon Thursday, came up in conversation. I'm going to make a claim. I'm going to make a claim. Some of you may have heard this before, but more and more, I'm starting to think even more. Does AEW sometimes mock pro wrestling? What I mean by that is, you look at Tony Khan, beady eyes and all, with the Young Bucks, and the autistic billionaire. You know, he's got to have that moment on TV, and when he's talking to the Young Bucks, he's got to make sure to look at the camera, you know, and make sure my eyes, you know, yeah, it's me. And he's talking about $400,000 matches, $500,000 matches, $1 million battle royals. You know, we're not stupid. These people aren't really getting the cash. That's AWA 1990 garbage. Somebody gets fined, you're fined $10,000. If you take roids or if you slap someone in the back, yeah, I could see it. But when you're doing an angle on television, you're fined $100,000. Nobody believes it. I'm starting to wonder for real. If some of these spots are done to mock wrestling. Because what Pollock is going to have a bag put over his head and he's literally just poke a hole. That's it. I'd stand and be like, hey, Mox, you done yet? You know, this is pay-per-view. You know, we got to finish the match. You know, look, Mock, I can breathe. Look, I can even do this. I can even spit through my tongue. Darby Allin gets his head in a fish tank. And instead of sticking his knee, you'd think Moxley would love that. Darby Allin should grab Moxley's fingers, his arm, and dig into his skin. And let's see the fingernails breaking blood. I think Moxley would have an orgasm. No, instead, look, that was my problem with it. Did I have an issue about children watching it? Any children that are watching AEW already are watching it because their family allows it or they sneak it. And what I witnessed this past week between Amanda Huber, the widow of the late great John Huber, and Sarah Stock was pretty fucking hilarious. Because it's obvious we realize now that Amanda Huber and Sarah Stock have animosity outside of whatever happened with the fish tank spot. I think Amanda Huber was waiting for that moment that she could really stick it to Sarah Stock. All right? In my honest opinion, when Sarah, now for those that don't know, I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes edition of it. When that fish tank spot happened, it was almost midnight. And AEW's Twitter account posted the spot and said, somebody stop this. So Sarah Stock responds and says, mothers should be turning off the TV right now. No parent should let their kid watch this. Well, fucking open the floodgates. All the AEW sickos, what are you, fucking stupid? The fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck? Blah. And Amanda Huber, and listen, you know me. I've been doing this since 1997. I am the longest running wrestling host in history. I know I don't say it enough, but it's true. And I have gained the respect from a shitload of people in wrestling, not because it makes me feel good, not because I want to brag about it, but because I say what I mean and I mean what I say. I'm not trying to fight with people. I'm not trying to burn bridges. I'm not trying to get over with anybody. I tell you exactly how it is. And I think if we're being honest, there's a lot of people that are afraid to lash back at Amanda Huber because her husband passed away. Am I wrong? I know a lot of you were thinking of it, but you would dare never say that. So if I'm going to criticize Amanda Huber, I'm going to do it no matter what. I'll say this, okay, about this, okay? So they fought. And Amanda Huber, her argument to Sarah Stock was, this is midnight. No children should be up at midnight. You know what my kids are doing? My kids are sleeping right now. That was her defense. That defense would be perfect if it was 1995, or if it was 1985, or if it was before social media. Amanda Huber made a great outdated argument, and I'll tell you why in a minute. In the midst of all of this, Brandon Thurston, Wrestle Economics major. I think he's the one that asked Tony Khan about ticket prices and everything. And Tony Khan actually says that AEW is a family-friendly alternative. That's his exact quote. Family-friendly alternative because their prices are reasonable. And I'm in my 50s. I grew up as a preteen in the 70s. All right, I was a teenager in the 80s. Okay, I watched back when the Bronx was the South Bronx, the South Bronx, and Harlem, and some awful areas where there was poverty, just inflation like out of control. And if you would have said to some minority in the 70s and the 80s, the TV show Good Times, JJ, we have no money for dinner. And JJ says, you know what? We could buy Celeste Crispy Tasty for 99 cents. Dynamite. And you turn around and you say, you know what, Ma? We could live on Salisbury steak dinners every day. 89 cents. Cheap eats. You dare tell someone who is poor that, listen, you can't afford to eat a healthy meal, no problem. You could have soup for sluts. You could have soup for sluts for 45 cents. Dare tell someone in a impoverished neighborhood that, you could afford to eat just, Little Debbie's cost a quarter. Remember those little drinks that we used to get for a quarter? They look like little things of, I'm trying to think. What's that thing when you pull a pin and you throw it? A grenade. Remember the little grenades for 25 cents? We used to buy 25-cent this and 10-cent this and this and that. It wasn't good for us. Here's the best part of it all. And we'll get to the conclusion of this. A lot of you have heard me over the last almost 30 years. Talk about a movie theater that I used to go to when I was a kid. Back in the 80s and the part of the 90s, there was a movie theater in my neighborhood in Rego Park on Woodhaven Boulevard called The Drake. That is actually a picture of that movie theater, okay? And when I used to go to that movie theater, I always said it was $1 to get in. You had the Midway, you had the Continental, you had the Aria movie theater. All of them were like $6, $7. I'm a teenager. I don't have no money like that. You go to the Drake for $1. You're 12 years old. Go to the Drake for $1. Now, what would happen? What would happen is, let's say you would have a movie like this, Creep Show, Dawn of the Dead. That's actually the Drake movie theater. Dawn of the Dead, Creep Show. Okay? R-rated movies. R-rated movies. Now, if my mother says you're not allowed to watch that kind of violence, is it okay for me to watch it because the Drake was only $1 to get in? And here's the most beautiful thing. I was looking for some pictures of the Drake movie theater, and I came across this gem. Look, there's the proof. Look, they used to have a giant banner that said all seats $1. I found that picture last week. So what is my point of all of this? Tony Khan and everyone else in AEW that have gone public and said AEW is family-friendly alternative because it's cheap, understand that almost everybody saying that do not have kids. Do not have kids. You do not justify this kind of violence by saying, oh, you know, our shows are family friendly. It's an alternative. WWE charges $1,000. You could go to our show for $20. That makes it better. That makes it better. And the sad thing about it is, you would think that the people in the wrestling media, especially the ones who ask the questions, just when I ask the questions, you give me the retarded answers and I don't say nothing back. I don't expect Brandon Thurston or anyone else out there during a live scrum turn around and say, Tony, what are you, fucking stupid? Just because something's cheap doesn't mean that my kid should be watching it. You know, I'm going to bring my kid to the show because I could sit ringside for $50 to watch someone put a syringe in their mouth. Now let me make this clear, guys. I don't have an issue with it because I know what it is. I'm an adult. I grew up on ECW, FMW, CZW, XPW. I know what it is. But when you have a billionaire who's supposed to have some type of education, actually saying publicly, our shows are a family-friendly alternative because they're cheap. I mean, what am I supposed to say to this? Oh, that makes it better. That's okay, Tony. My kids could watch that because it's cheap. Tony, you inherited a shitload of money and you did great in the advertising world and you do decent in the business world. But I think there's a reason why you have no children. I think there's a reason why a lot of the people that are defending this have no children. What I also find pretty amazing is, and this is not defending WWE, but I do remember in the early to mid 2000s, especially when you had the parent-teacher council around, which sparked the right to censor. Anybody remember right to censor? Anybody remember all those organizations? They did the Bischoff spoof, the National Organization of Women. And Eric Bischoff's like, oh, you want hot lesbian action. I remember vividly, and I'm sorry for singling one person out. But I respect this man so much, regardless of his political views. And I've had the privilege of meeting him and watching his charitable causes live and in person. But I always remember Mick Foley at the top of the list telling everybody, I won't let my kids watch WWE. I won't let my kids watch WWE. How many wrestlers back in the late 90s / early to mid 2000s do you remember doing interviews saying, I wouldn't let my kids watch WWE? I could never. Why are they all silent? when they see this? Why are they all silent? You know why? Because your kid's all grown up now. I'm all grown up now. That's why. Where is that? So Sarah Stock feels that it's offensive for kids to watch this. So basically, Amanda Huber, who obviously does not like Sarah Stock, tells her to fuck off. Fuck off. And she uses the midnight argument. Here's where Amanda Huber gets it terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. Yeah, AEW tweeted it at midnight. Does that tweet go away? Is that tweet still visible at 8 o'clock the next morning, 12 noon the next day, a week after, 2 weeks after? You know, her argument would have been good in the 80s because in the 80s and even the 90s to an extent, if there was something late at night on TV, back when I grew up, some of you that are my age, who remembers scrambled porn? Who remembers scrambled porn? If your parents wanted to watch WHT late night, all right, Channel 68, they got the box upstairs in their bedroom, and they're watching some, watered down adult entertainment. We would tune into Channel 68 on a regular television, see nothing but snow. And for a split little second, you got to see a leg. Was that a nipple? No, that's just snow. Oh, I think I see a hand. I see blonde hair. Oh my God. I couldn't watch it because I didn't have access to it. The next morning, I could turn on the box all I want and I'll get Uncle Floyd. I wouldn't get the late night porn. The only way I would have gotten the late night porn is if my parents recorded it and I found the video, or if I snuck and watched it through the box myself. In this day and age, just because something takes place at midnight, something is posted at midnight, you can't use that excuse anymore because it's available the next day, it's available the next week, it's available the next month, it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And what's so sad about it is I didn't watch one person make that common sense post. Not one person. Are people that afraid to confront people? Are you afraid that because you have a difference of opinion, someone's just going to turn around and say, fuck off. Go fuck yourself. You're a fucking hater. You're looking for a paycheck. Look at Gail Kim. Gail Kim gives her opinion on ultraviolet wrestling. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like it. She thinks it's garbage. It's garbage. We saw what happened as a result. And you say to yourself, my God, what the fuck is wrong with these people? I don't like to criticize products as much as I do. But, there is a certain, vibe about things. If you go watch a product and too many people around that product go after others. Look, I don't like it. I thought the soup was a little salty. Go fuck off. I think the steak was a little bit tough. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck you and go fuck your mother. You turn around and, okay, that's just one person doing it. But you don't see the owner coming out and saying, listen. They have a right to their opinion. When they come out? When people gang up, and then Dustin Rhodes, as much as I appreciate him, we're all fans at the end of the day. Can't we all get along? But when everybody else is being toxic to anybody expressing criticism in AEW, they all fucking seem to be disappeared. What is it, Ice Cream Man outside? Everybody's online waiting for Mr. Softy? So this is the problem. You have a culture that if you dare criticize them and give logic to it, you get people like JD from New York that can't even work House of Glory because some people got a little bit too triggered. You want us to be part of your show? You ain't allowed to commentate. And guess what? House of Glory gets put in a horrible situation. What are they supposed to do? Honestly, if I'm House of Glory, listen, JD, we're sorry, man. Sorry. It's like that scene in The Godfather when Don Fanucci walks in and says, listen, you're going to give my nephew a job. Yeah, but I can't afford it. Look, I got Robert De Niro, 18-year-old Robert De Niro working for me. Look, he does good. He sweeps the floor. I don't give a fuck. You're going to bring my nephew in there? Or I'm going to get the fucking NBA player. I'm going to get Chauncey Phillips after your ass. And what happens? He has to fire Robert De Niro. He's like, he doesn't want to do it, but he's got no choice. He's in a bad situation. House of Glory, you can't, listen, there's loyalty, obviously. And yes, I know what some of you are going to say, well, JD gets way too over the top and everything like that. It's not my style to go over the top like that. My over the top is facts and common sense. If common sense and facts get you mad, too bad. Sorry, can't help you there. You know, that's the difference between me and a lot of others. Fuck off. Go fuck yourself. Have a whole ton of people gang up on someone, and what happens? Oh, God, I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to be part of that vibe, that atmosphere. You know, I've said this countless times, and it goes on deaf ears. When Tony Khan and others say that 2025 is AEW's best year yet, I 1,000% believe them. I absolutely believe them. That's not sarcasm. That I believe 1,000%. Because you and I figured out AEW 5 years ago. Early on, we started to figure it out. It took a few years to substantiate it. You could have hunches back then, but there's no track record to defend it. What did we used to say? AEW is like summer camp. We were calling it summer camp a year before Cornette did, with all due respect. All right? We called it a summer camp. You want to have ice cream for dinner? Absolutely. You want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, eat a bag of potato chips? Absolutely. I want to watch cartoons all day. Go right ahead. You know, I feel like wearing shorts to work. Absolutely. Mental health happiness is number one for AEW. When you have a billionaire that eats, sleeps, shits, hemorrhages billions of dollars, when an accountant walks in and says, Tony, we lost $160 million last year. Peanuts. It's 1/4% of what he's worth. You start taking off zeros, that's the equivalent of somebody saying, hey, DT, you lost $4,000 this year. Am I going to shut everything down because I lost $4,000? I'm happy. My workers are happy. People, the environment is happy. When Darby Allin says we cut the cancer out, it's those that didn't want to conform and just be happy. Just be happy. That I believe wholeheartedly. It's not about growing. Of course, they want to have big numbers so they can feel like they're on WWE's level. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing, and we'll segue to two things now. It's amazing when, for the last 5 years, every AEW is always compared to WWE. AEW, WWE, AEW, WWE, AEW, WWE. Everybody that supported AEW, WWE, always got to be in the same sentence. AEW, WWE. And then NXT started beating AEW in the ratings, and now all of a sudden, that's unfair. That's a stupid argument. That's a stupid claim. Dave, with all due respect, you know, what happened in the past when AEW beat NXT in the ratings? You know, when this happened and this happened. And the only reason why I say Dave is because he and I have been having fun lately, having back and forth with ratings. And I saw the super chat that came in a little while ago. And I appreciate what you said, but I have to defend Dave because he's been very respectful towards me. I try to be respectful back towards him. And we had a fun, healthy discussion about the ratings. But for 5 years or 4 years, whatever it was, that AEW was just trouncing NXT in the ratings, you know, everything was fine. Now all of a sudden, that's unfair. No, it's not unfair. It's not unfair. So I want to share with you very quickly a clip that I found. Chris Jericho, not too long ago, was talking right while AEW is beating NXT in the ratings. And he gives his thoughts on it. And Chris Jericho says that NXT is not competition for AEW. So I want you to hear, you tell me if this is aged well. I want to see if you think this is aged well. Chris Jericho saying that NXT is not competition for AEW. Let him tell you what he feels AEW's competition is.
NXT is still the minor league. No matter how you slice it and how you move it and this, that, and the other thing, those guys are still basically unknown performers. It's not a competition to us. And I knew we would win because we have more star power than NXT does. So to me, we're not in competition with NXT. Our competition is Raw, is SmackDown, is Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar and all those guys.
That's what they were pushing back in the day, and it was perfectly fine to do so until NXT, the unknowns, started to beat them in the ratings. You see AEW's buildings a third full. You see the core audience still buying the pay-per-views. Problem is, when you have 120,000 pay-per-view buys, that's global. That's global. That's across the country. If AEW is just going to be in Saskatchewan, or if they're going to be in Dallas, Texas, or they're going to be in Long Island, New York, you're taking just one portion of the entire United States being there live and in person. So when you see them doing decent pay-per-view buys still, that's because their core audience has not left. Their core audience, very loud-spoken, have not left. It's just when you go to certain areas now and you see Arthur Ashe Stadium nowhere near what it was filled 4 years ago, 3 years ago, you realize that a lot of areas, they have lost quite a few people. But yet it's still their best year because they're happy. Happiness is number one. And if Tony Khan needs to overpay people to keep them there, he will. I don't know what's going to happen with Chris Jericho if he goes to WWE. In my honest opinion, unless Chris Jericho wants to ease back and have a much lighter schedule, and I know what you're going to say to me, DT, how could he have a lighter schedule if he goes to WWE? He works behind the scenes in AEW. Yes, he does Fozzy and everything else, but Chris Jericho has a boatload of value in AEW behind the scenes. He would not have that in WWE. He would be an on-air character only. And Chris Jericho only having to work 1 day a week, sometimes an extra day, that is much different than having a lot of backstage responsibilities. Chris Jericho is set for life financially. If Chris Jericho still wants those backstage responsibilities, Tony Khan will re-sign him. Tony Khan could overpay 10 times over for Chris Jericho, and that's perfectly fine. He's a billionaire. If I want to spend $50 for this can of air spray because I like it that much, if I'm a millionaire, so what? I could overpay on everything. I could sell somebody a car for twice the value. If they want it that bad and they got the money, they could overpay it. It's not a money thing. It's really what Chris Jericho wants to have over the next couple of years. So getting back to the argument about the hardcore, AEW is not family friendly. And that's okay. That's okay. Stop trying to act like you're something that you're not. Yes, WWE is a lot more family friendly, a lot more family friendly. And yeah, and don't listen to the Mavens of the world. I saw this clip this weekend. Maven can no longer watch WWE. Fuck you. You fucking make tens of thousands of dollars in ad revenue. Oh, look, what was it like to wear this hat in 2005? You're making a shitload of money off of wrestling that you say you don't want to watch anymore. Don't worry. In about a year and a half, when your stick gets super, super old, then you'll start to look, everybody, I'm going to breathe in canned air. That's what you're going to do. It gets old after a while. You know, you see people out there that have these niches in doing what they do. It gets old after a while. AEW should just cater to the people that like their product. Stop insisting that you're WWE level. Stop insisting that you're family friendly because they're family friendly. Stop saying our tickets are cheaper, so families should go. You come off like a moron, an absolute moron. What fucking responsible adult with little kids is going to turn around and say, you know what, kids? I can't afford $4,000 to go to WWE, but you know what? For $160, we could go to AEW, and I'll just put my hands over your eyes when somebody sticks a syringe in their mouth. It's asinine. It's stupid. And it's just sad to see so many people afraid to make that argument because they don't want cancel culture to go after them, or in the case of others, you know, they're afraid because some people, you know, they're just so well liked. How can I go after that person? I have no issue with AEW's product. I have none. I have no issue with the fish tank spot. Because I'm older. I don't have kids. I know what I'm watching. I know that it's suspension of disbelief. I know that after the show, Darby Allin and John Moxley are probably having a beer if Darby Allin drinks, which I think he does. This is what it is. But when someone thinks that it's too outrageous for kids to see, you know, okay, you know, respect the argument, even if you disagree with it. Don't just turn around and say, you know, I remember you insulted Sting's daughter, and yeah, you got arrested for assault, and yeah, you were this, and you were that, and you were pissed off. That's pussy league. That's dick mode. That's tacky. That is low rent. That is not necessary. Turn around and attack shots after people. The whole Sarah Stock and Amanda Huber stuff was garbage. Absolute garbage. All right. Amanda Huber, she has her view about AEW. Sarah Stock has her view about AEW. Gail Kim has her view about certain things. You know, if you disagree with it, even if you don't like the person, just let it go. Move on. Just let it go. But to turn around and see this culture surrounding AEW is a huge turnoff. Because if you dare criticize the product, you have to worry about whole bunches of people ganging up on you, you know, just fighting you. In some cases, you're not even allowed to work shows over it. Why would I want to support something like that? Why would I even want to put $1 in their pockets? So this is my problem with the whole family-friendly alternative. Now, in working on the history show, I found something pretty humorous. And by the way, that picture on the screen of CM Punk hitting Danhausen with a bottle that is sugar glass, the 50 million little pieces should give it away. While I was working on a history show, I was going through my notes from like 6 years ago, and I found a video that CM Punk had done discussing like wrestling with movies and stuff like that. And he talked about, for a brief moment, ultra-violent wrestling. And I heard this clip and I'm like, if they went after Gail Kim as hard as they did, I wonder how fans of today would dare go after CM Punk. Remember what I said about Vince McMahon's 80th birthday party? Vince McMahon's 80th birthday party. What does this have to do with CM Punk and Glass? I'll tell you. You look at some of the people who attended his birthday party, and because the people online that absolutely hate Vince McMahon, thinks he should be in jail for the rest of his life, is a predator. Anybody that associates with him is a predator also. You know, is this, is that, is this. But yet some of their favorite wrestlers attend Vince McMahon's 80th birthday party, and they don't have the fucking balls to go on said wrestler's social media and say, how could you support a predator? It's okay when you go on a fan site. It's okay when you go on Hulk Hogan's side, God rest his soul, before he died. It's okay to go on other people's. But when it's a wrestler you like, you put your tail between your legs and suddenly you're offline for a fucking week. that shows how fake you are. So let's see, for all of those people that went after Gail Kim, let's see if they'll go after CM Punk for saying this.
Glass is used in pro wrestling all the time. It's either pro wrestling or it's garbage wrestling. Garbage wrestling is taking everything that is traditional about wrestling and the art kind of out of it and replacing it with ultra violence. Thumbtacks, fire, glass. I used to wrestle a lot for a promotion down in Indiana and Kentucky. I would be like the exception. There'd be a few of us who would just do, traditional, like old school wrestling. I mean, they'd have to sweep the ring out before I got into it because it would just be littered with all this junk. Splintered tables, wood screws, thumbtacks, glass, everything. The light tubes, I think, is the popular thing the kids use. Maybe I did get hit with a light tube once. It's hard to remember sometimes.
Now, maybe that didn't age as well. You think of Hell in the Cell and that match that went down. But there you go. There's a clip right there. Did the IWC go after him like they went after Gail Kim? No. Because they feel that Gail Kim is much easier prey to go after. Wouldn't dare go after him like that. So you see a lot of what's going on online. And yes, they give me lots of agita. But at the end of the day, you got to just tone those people out. And this is why I don't stay as active as I do. But this whole argument about AEW and this family-friendly alternative is beyond ridiculous. Anybody defending it, listen to their reasons for defending it. And most of the people that do don't have children. Most of them that do. And some of them that do have outdated arguments, as we just put out there. Now, earlier, I saw this come in. I want to thank, who posted this? Ronnie C. Thank you, Ronnie, for the 20 spot. He saw that my exchange with Dave Meltzer, and he says that I shredded his claim that Netflix is inflating the Raw ratings. I need to tweet more. No one would school them like I would. I wasn't trying to school Dave Meltzer, and I don't think I shredded what his argument, his claim. But, I bring this up. I tell you, if you go on Google, I brought this up the other day too. If you go on Google, it's an amazing experience. And my added suggestion is go in incognito mode. Not that the ratings gods are going to go after you. It's not like they're watching you. Go in incognito mode so you know that what you're seeing is unbiased and not influenced based on your browsing history. If you go and you just type in Nielsen ratings and, do a time-sensitive search. Look over the past year. Just search Nielsen ratings. Or, better yet, look at the new Nielsen system. You will be absolutely embarrassed to be a wrestling fan because you will see about 75% of all of the posts in the entire internet world is from wrestling. And it's bizarre. It's fucking bizarre. You don't see basketball. Well, they're busy gambling. You don't see basketball, baseball, soap operas, TV shows, news outlets, specials, special events, tragedies, documentaries. You don't see, made-for-TV movies, docuseries. You don't see anybody out there talking about quarter-hour breakdowns. You won't find one. You won't find fucking one. Only wrestling is obsessed with these numbers. What does that tell you? When they tell you ratings don't matter, but have to even make up quarter-hour breakdowns and demos and this went up and this did this and this did that. Oh, we're not including Max. We're not including people who watch it illegally. We're not including people who watch it on Hulu, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere else. Ratings is everything for you. Everything to you. People say ratings don't matter when the ratings come in that they don't like. But you see these people, it is fucking weird on this obsession with wrestling ratings. I think Nielsen, honestly, you ever see, I don't want to be really terrible and say everybody should die, but if you ever see that movie, I almost said Fade to Black, The Will Smith movie, when he holds up that thing, that wand, and things just act like they never happened. I think Nielsen would just love to lift that wand up and professional wrestling never existed. You see this bizarre reaction. NXT, 500-something thousand. AEW only 477,000. But that's the new system. That's the new methodology. It's the argument I made last week. It's the argument I made last week on the news show. I'm fat. I have in my house a spring scale, from the 1990s. The spring where you move the dial and you kind of move it like a little bit before the zero. So you kind of get like an extra half a pound less on your weight. You move it to the dial and then you step on the scale and the scale says 280 pounds. Motherfucker. Now, scale's broken. It says 280, but I'm really 300. No, I'm not really 300, but I'm just using an example. But I still use the broken scale, the outdated scale, because it makes me look lighter. So what happens? For Christmas, my wife, honey, I bought you something for Christmas. Oh, I open it up. Oh, good. It's a Homedics digital scale, 2025 technology. Yay, great. He could tell me my weight even before I step on the scale. I put 1 foot on the scale, don't even bother. So now what happens? Oh, good. Honey, I'll go try it out. Let me see. No. Stay in the other room. I'll check it out. And I step on the scale. And the scale holds back a chuckle and says, you weigh 300 pounds. And I turn around and realize, oh, fuck. I really am 300 pounds. And I turn around. And my name is Wade Keller, and I work for a company called WrestleNomics. And I know they don't work for each other, but my point is, them and others, oh, no. We want to still use the old scale. We want to remind everyone, no, look, I'm 300 pounds, but no, it's the new scale. Guys, it says I'm 300, but it's the new scale. Like it's wrong. And why do they do that? Number one, when you have Rokus and smart TVs, you can't get caught out of breakdowns anymore. So that kind of fucks up a little bit of creativity, if you know what I mean, that people will never ever challenge us on. Why would you still use because the scale was broken. You want to use 2005 technology instead of 2025 technology because it just looks better. These are people that you're supposed to trust. These are people that go to the media scrums. These are people that are fucking doing newsletters and patrons and getting hand jobs from people. These are the BJ Bethels and everything else. This is what we're dealing with here. So I challenge Dave, not just because of the arithmetic, but because why does everybody think that only in wrestling are numbers being fudged? I don't ever see NFL Today, NBA, MLB, news outlets, movies, documentaries, this and that, having journalists saying, Max is fudging the numbers. Netflix is fudging the numbers. Blah, 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 is fudging. Only in wrestling. Only in fucking wrestling. We have the most mentally deranged fellow fans of anything out there. We're more deranged than mental institutions. Even mental institutions don't complain as much. Why are there ants on my bread? Why is there dirt on the floor? Why are you giving me a Q-tip that has yellow on it already? You don't even hear complaints like that. Only in fucking wrestling. So, Ronnie, I appreciate what you said, but I wasn't trying to school Dave. My niece works for a pretty high-profile advertising agency in New York City. And not too long ago, we went to my father's birthday party. A lot of you remember. And I was talking to her a little bit about, Netflix and everything, because this was the same week that Raw debuted. My father's birthday is January 6th. And I was talking to her, like, how does it work, like, with the ads? Because I was told last year that we were getting commercials. And internationally, she explained to me why commercials did not air in certain countries yet, but it was coming. Now you see, in the last 2 weeks, people are reporting internationals or the fans are starting to complain they're getting commercials. Yeah. She explained to me how it works and how they determine ad rates and what methodology they use and how they factor in the airtime and take out commercial, this and that. I got that straight from someone who works for an advertising agency. So why would I turn around and say something that's not true? So I'm trying to inform and maybe give a piece of information that somebody didn't know. My problem is, and if you saw the response that I got going back and forth with Dave, people were trying to fight with me saying, no, they include airtime with commercials because they want other commercial outlets to see that fans are watching the other commercials. If that was fucking true, 40 minutes of Raw is commercials. If you have 2.4 million viewers and you add 40 minutes of commercials to the airing, now you got, if 400,000 fans watched live or 1 million fans watch live, you now have 40 million more minutes added. Boy, Raw looks a lot better now. Raw is going back to numbers 10 years ago. That's ridiculous. And then I'm saying, if I'm selling T-Mobile, what the fuck do I care if people are watching Snickers commercials or Riyadh season? The fuck do I care? I don't care if 1 million people are watching that commercial. It's not my product. If someone else's cell phone is that's different. So, Ronnie, I think my gut feeling is that people don't want to know the truth. They don't want to know the truth. They just want whatever sounds better. That's why BJ Bethel, trust me, when BJ Bethel dies, I don't want him to die anytime soon. But trust me, when BJ Bethel dies, you know what his tombstone will say? Here lies BJ Bethel, born whatever year, died whatever year. And then underneath, broke the story that AEW gets 500,000 viewers on Max. That's it. That's it. It's going to be on his dating profile. It's going to be on his fucking resume. He's going to tell his great grandkids. He's going to tell fucking neighbors. He's going to tell the fucking loony people. He's going to tell his parole officer. He's going to tell his fucking counselor. He's going to tell anybody that possibly, I broke the story. Blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, BJ, everybody's laughing at you. The only reason why you think people aren't laughing at you, because they want to hold on that little possibility of hope that maybe BJ was right. That more people are watching Max than regular television. Yeah, right? If that was the case, why wouldn't Max just make AEW only on Max and put someone else in prime time and maybe could get more viewers? Right? Isn't that how business works in the cable TV world? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's get into your questions because we're going to go about 2 hours tonight. Bob the Builder, what's up, Bob? Thank you for the 5. CM Punk's birthday. Favorite memory. By the way, one thing about Amanda Huber that I will always give her kudos for. She has the same birthday as my father, I think. So I think so. Actually, I think not. Actually, I know. Take that back. I'll tell you later why I thought that for a second. People get a good laugh out of it. It's CM Punk's birthday. Favorite memories of him? Where do I rank him of all time? He will appreciate him while we have him as he is at the end of his career. CM Punk, much younger, was an asshole. He was an asshole. You either really liked him or you really disliked him. I had the opportunity to work one wrestling show with him, the Chris Candido Memorial Show. He fought Ian Rotten. And I was part of that show as well. And I do remember vividly. They call it, what were the girls called? The Juggalettes? Yeah, the Juggalos and the Juggalettes, I think it was. Ian Rotten came in from IWA Mid-South. And that was the promotion CM Punk was talking about earlier in that clip I shared. And CM Punk fought Ian Rotten. And everybody thought it was going to be ultra violent. And it wasn't. And I remember vividly when Frank Goodman, a lot of you to talk to Frank still, you could ask him if I'm lying. I was involved with that show behind the scenes and on the show, and very small capacity. But I remember Frank we drew, I think, like 1,300 people. And he's looking around and he sees this group of girls dressed very differently. And we found out that some women from this, the IWA Mid-South area traveled all the way to Long Island because CM Punk was there. Now, I don't know if they got to meet him after the show. In 2025, if you cry in the crowd and hold a sign that says, I waited 19 years to see CM Punk, you meet him. And that was an awesome story. I really thought that was an awesome story, what happened 2 weeks ago with Punk and that girl. That was cool. Now, 20 years ago, if you showed up, hey, I came to see CM Punk, if you dress like a juggalette, I don't know. Did they get a chance to see him? I don't know. CM Punk will go down as one of the top talents of this generation. This new, I would say the new generation. Because in the mid-90s, you had the new generation. That's what WWF was plugging, the new generation. The fossils from the 80s were getting a little bit outdated. Then they realized in the 2000s, we could still milk a little bit. Unfortunately, some people just demanded too much money, and that's why Macho Man never really came back and did anything. But in the mid-90s, it was the new generation. To me, in the mid-2000s, it was the new generation. And he will go down as one of the greatest in the last 20 years. It's a shame that he was gone for a few years, but you know who I'll compare it to? I'll make this comparison because I haven't seen anybody make this comparison yet. And I'm sure someone has at some point, but probably not. I compare it to Shawn Michaels. It sucked that Shawn Michaels lost his smile and had the back issues and had to leave after he lost the championship to Steve Austin. It's a shame that those years that Shawn Michaels did not compete, that we lost years of an amazing career. But I think we would not have gotten that second Shawn Michaels run if he had never stepped away. I personally enjoy Shawn Michaels' second run more than his first run. His first run went from the Rockers up until D-Generation X. Then he left. Yes, when he came back, he still did some DX stuff with Triple H, but to me, Shawn Michaels' second run, I enjoyed wholeheartedly more than his first run. And I think that second run doesn't happen as good as it does if he didn't step away. I say the same thing about CM Punk. I compare CM Punk's current run to Shawn Michaels. Yes, it didn't work out in AEW because CM Punk's reasons for doing wrestling is a little bit different than the culture in AEW. It's obvious. And some people were very threatened by CM Punk with that culture. And what you realize now is that you either conform or you leave. Remember, early on, Dax was considered kind of an outcast in AEW. We thought he was going to be peacemaker on both sides. Then suddenly he became, in many people's eyes, this real uber snowflake. I don't agree with that, but many people feel that way. You look at Thunder Rosa. Wasn't too long ago that people were saying AEW is not pushing any of Thunder Rosa's friends. And it seemed like Thunder Rosa, she's hiding in the bathroom. She's doing, like Thunder Rosa was kind of the outcast. Then it seemed like she conformed. And I don't have any, listen, Thunder Rosa is one of my favorites. And I absolutely think that she is awesome. But the perception with a lot of people is you put your tail between your legs and you take what you take and you accept it or you're out of here. You know who's going through that right now? Whether people want to admit it or not? Deonna Purrazzo. Back in June, I put that thumbnail of Tony Khan dressed as a ghost next to Camille, and he's ghosting Camille. And what did the text box say on top of Tony Khan as a ghost? I said, Deonna, you're next. You see that a mile away. Deonna Purrazzo is fucking being wasted in AEW, Ring of Honor, whatever you want to call it. You see, I watch it from the outside in. People that are hardcore AEW. Listen, thank you, by the way, Bob, for that, for the CM Punk. But, listen, I was a loyal, rabid ECW fan. I got to work for them pushing tickets and promoting towards the final year. And there was a lot of money problems. There was a lot of things going on. But anybody that was really uber supportive did not see it or refused to accept it. We're in denial. The writing was on the wall. It was obvious, but it's hard to dispute it when you see the building completely full. Hammerstein was always full to the max. Going other places, they drew 3,000-4,000 people at the time. So how could things be this bad? I would be convinced. No. Yeah, they're losing some people to the bigger companies, but WCW is running into problems. Raven was in WCW, then he left and he went back to ECW. Same thing with Sandman and others. Yeah, people would come back. There's only so many people that WWF could have. And then what happens? WCW goes out of business. ECW goes out of business. And then you realize the truth. There's a lot of people within AEW and hardcore AEW fans that refuse to see what your lying eyes are telling you. Could see that a mile away with Deonna Purrazzo. Tony just wanted the toy. It was like the new video game coming out. It's like the new Beanie Baby from back in the day. Beanie Baby would come out. Look, Don West would push it on the home shopping network. Or Shop at Home, I think it was. Look, the new Beanie Baby. And people are spending $200 for a Beanie Baby that was like $20 because I had to have it. Had to have it. Once you had it, you're like, how do I do with it? Play with it a little bit. It's kind of like a dog. It's kind of like a dog. I come home. Listen, I should even videotape this. I should walk inside with my phone right now, put this behind my back, and go like this. Just make the sound. Look, Bella, Bruno, look what I got. Look what I got. And they're like looking like, what is it? What is it? Deonna Purrazzo. They jump and they're like, and what happens? After about 5 seconds, Deonna, Bella, Deonna, they'll pick it up and bring it to the other room. They might touch it next week, but we're not going to do it now. That's what's going on. You see the women's tag team tournament. I thought it was so cute the last 2 weeks. The inspiration. Their contracts are up. They'll be in the tournament. Deonna and Taya Valkyrie, they're finally going to get the opportunity. They've been a main tag team in Ring of Honor. They're going to... Why my hands shake? Come on, man. We see what's going on, but either you accept it, you conform, and you just say, everything is great, I'm happy. Look at, the girl I always talk about, probably the best example of them all, Viva Van. She's got a name that you feel the last name is missing, right? Doesn't it feel like she should have another name next to it? It's like, hey, did you see Via Van Holler? Or Via Van blah, blah, blah. She's got a name that you feel like you're saying the first and the middle name or the sub name. She's signed for over a year now. What's her record on Dynamite? What's her record on Collision? Go look it up. And she is uber supportive of AEW. She kicks ass for other indie shows. She's not bad at all. This is not like, you sign someone to the ID program and she's got to develop and go through Evolve and go through Schmuck Championship Wrestling in front of 40 people in Tennessee and this and that. This is someone that's been doing it for a while. And he signs her and nothing. Nothing. So, I don't even know how we got on that topic. But anyway, just to finish up the CM Punk stuff, I compare him to Shawn Michaels because of that. All right. I think CM Punk would have never had this good. Oh, I know what it was. CM Punk did not work out in AEW because he couldn't conform for the foundation, the culture that is AEW. You know, we're all a family. You know, everybody gets a little opportunity at some point, but then you got to like share it with others, and you know, you got to do this and you conform and blah 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 blah. And you know, this is about happiness and it's about a good environment, and it's not about selling out the building and having great ratings and selling crazy merchandise. It's about happiness. And some wrestlers, that's not why they're in it. You see people like Deonna Purrazzo, I always go back to because Tessa Blanchard left TNA, Impact Wrestling. And it was obvious that Impact was looking to find their next Tessa Blanchard. I am not saying Deonna was Tessa Blanchard light, but at that time, it was so fucking obvious that they needed to fill that void of that super woman. And Deonna just so happened did not work out with NXT. And Impact Wrestling put her in there, and they put a shitload of pressure on her and pushed her to be that woman in Impact Wrestling, and she delivered. And she became champion, and she worked her ass off, and she did a spectacular job in Impact Wrestling. And she went to AEW, and you felt like, okay. And when do people start comparing Tony Khan like Vince McMahon would treat WCW wrestlers? Because back in the day, people always say when a wrestler came from WCW and it was not a Vince original, they would always be kind of like kept in the back burner and misused and not really pushed the way they should. When do we start saying that about TNA talent? Because there's obviously a disdain towards Tony Khan and Impact Wrestling, now TNA. That COVID relationship fizzled very, very quickly. Fizzled faster than an Alka-Seltzer. It just fizzled away almost immediately. And I've pointed this out when we talk about the history shows. It'll blow your fucking mind how many people that AEW signed that were in Impact Wrestling. Yes, it is Impact Wrestling's fault to a degree that they did not sign people to long-term deals. They couldn't afford to. But you look at cards. Go check this week's history show. It's not for a cheap plug. Go look at the cards from 2-3 years ago. And you read these cards, and almost half the people are in AEW. When do we start saying that Tony Khan is the one taking all the talent away from Impact Wrestling? Now, in defense, where are they supposed to go? WWE is filled right now. There's no vacancy in WWE. Trust me, there's a couple of releases coming. You already heard the Candice LeRae news, right? I hope you did. You do remember about 4 months ago, I said right around Halloween, you'll start hearing some news about Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae, because all you got to do is just do a little research and you can see when they signed with WWE and how long their contract was. And, oh, look, my sources tell me that, blah, 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 blah. Now the news is coming out that Candice LeRae is shifting to a different role. Ah, look, it's Halloween time. Could it be that, yes. I'm not saying she's going to be released, but I'm saying there are some releases coming. We always are used to releases like right after WrestleMania, that spring cleaning. No, you get it in the wintertime as well. But the culture. And CM Punk would not be where he is now with that time off if he didn't have that time off. He is matured. He is older. He is mortal. He sees he doesn't have many years left. He sees that his body hurts a lot more now. You see, I mean, this is not CM Punk from even 10 years ago. And CM Punk is really, and you know what I think happens too? And I think a lot of you will agree with me on this. Anybody out there that has older parents, especially your dads, how many of you out there have a dad or an uncle that is in their 60s or 70s or even 80s, and they should be just chilling on the beach, relaxing, enjoying their final years, but they just can't stand still. They always got to do something. They got to go to the store. They got to do something in the yard. They got to do something around the house. They got to keep doing. Got to keep pushing. My father is like that. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there have parents or relatives like that. Some people need that push, the need that there's something to go for, not just conform and being complacent and just, listen, the bills are paid. I'm happy. I got a job. I got income. If I'm going to be on Ring of Honor, fine. If I'm not used this week, fine. And I'll go on social media. Life is great. Tony is great. Fine. You know, not everybody wants that. Not everybody wants that just acceptance and, you know, just conforming. And you could see, tell me someone that is in AEW right now that you feel could, you know, be the next one to, you know, get booted out. Honestly, you know what I think? I think you may get a Deonna Purrazzo or Taya Valkyrie or somebody. I'm not singling them out, but since we just talked about it, I think you're going to get somebody like that could turn around and say, you know, listen, you know, my years are being wasted. You know, I appreciate, you know, the job security and getting to do something, but, you know, I need more. I need to gun for more. That's what happened with Jade Cargill. That's what happens with others. That doesn't mean that they're anti-AEW. But once someone starts giving that perception, that's it. That's it. Maybe Wardlow, but Wardlow's already in his 40s. I think Wardlow, you know, if he went to WWE, I think they would protect him enough. Plus, they would have him working out almost every day. I think Wardlow works out almost every day. But the difference is working out in the gym and training every day to be a wrestler is two totally different things. People who have been in the wrestling business for decades, who are fit, will tell you that. It is much different than just lifting weights every day or going on a treadmill than training in the ring. It's much different. And I think that's why you see some people getting injuries over and over and over again, because you don't see the repetitions. You don't see them. You don't hear about them working matches and a lot of matches. You see half a dozen matches, you know, in a 6-7 month period. When you train, you're doing muscles and you're doing things in a way that you cannot replicate in the gym. So, all right. Shout out to Casey is Raw. Thank you very much, my friend. He's been a supporter of ours for quite some time. Thank you for the 5 spot. Tony Khan is going to be broke with all these big money matches. No, he's not. He'd rather fight for those big money matches than for an AEW belt. Tony Khan, I've said this so many times, he could lose $100 million a year for 20 years, and it won't even be 10, 15% of what he's worth. His father is extremely successful, and more money is going to be made. You don't hear the Khan family losing money outside of AEW, and the only reason why you don't hear it much in AEW because it's not a publicly traded company. It's not a publicly traded company. I'm not convinced that Warner Brothers Discovery owns any part of AEW. Because if I'm an investor in Warner Brothers Discovery, they're a publicly traded company, I want to know your assets. I want to know what you own. And if they own something secretly, doesn't investors need to know that? I think what happens with Warner Brothers Discovery, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Khan pays them a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Khan, just takes or tells them, listen, you could take 80% of the ad revenue. You could take 90% of the ad revenue. I think that's what they do. I think they have a lucrative relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery. Remember, the terms of the deal was never made public. And it was weird to not see investors want to know that. Because personally, I think it was this big of a deal. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Max, it's nice to be streaming on Max, but, what's the pay-per-view buy rate on Max? No one knows. No one knows the pay-per-view buy rate on Amazon. It could be in the thousands. And that's not as ridiculous as you think when you realize all the different outlets that it could be featured. But I think this Warner Brothers Discovery deal is much more lucrative in the case that AEW does not get the revenue that you think it does. I don't think, because you hear about WWE and Netflix and ESPN and others, not even comparing the size of the deals. But you would think that AEW would want to tout how much money that they're getting for staying on Warner Brothers Discovery. No, shh. We need the BJ Schmuckles of the world to tell us 185 million. And because no one comes out and disputes that, after a while you do a Google search and AI says 185 million. Oh, it must be true. It's never been proven. It's never been discussed. So I think this deal is much more lucrative, where Warner Brothers Discovery gets a majority of the ad revenue, and AEW gets this, and he's a billionaire and he could lose hundreds of millions over the years. It's nothing. I mean, it's money, obviously, but think about it, guys. Just take zeros off. Take zeros off. Instead of being a 10 billionaire, being worth 10 billion, you take 2 zeros off. Well, no, 10 billion is 1,000 millions, right? So you take 4 zeros off. You got 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, billion. So you take 3 zeros off, and you're worth $1 million. So you take 3 zeros off 100 million. No, actually, I take that back, because we said 10 billion. 10 billion, 1 billion, 100 million, 10 million, 1 million. You're worth $1 million. Take 5 zeros off. And let's say you lose right now, Tony Khan's losing 150 million a year. Take 5 digits off of that. 150 million, 15 million, 1.5 million, 150,000, $15,000. You're worth $1 million and you lost 15,000. Wouldn't you laugh that shit off? I'm worth $1 million. 15,000 peanuts. That's nothing. It's nothing. That could be my car insurance for the year. So when Tony Khan is worth $10 billion and the Khan family's worth as much as they are, you realize losing $100 million is nothing. For us, we'd be happy with an extra couple of thousand. It's nothing. AEW will be around for a while. If Tony Khan ever burns out and doesn't want it anymore, or if he ever gets himself into legal troubles and we find out that, he had an interesting life outside of wrestling. I'm not saying that he kept anybody in his basement for 10 years or, but if he ever got into some serious legal trouble, or if he got burned out, or God forbid something else happened, it's owned by a company. I mean, AEW is a corporation, and there's people involved with it. So there's other people that would be involved with it too. I don't think they would just fold it. They would sell it, or they would try to run it. I don't think AEW is going anywhere anytime soon. Anytime soon. And honestly, if we're being straight up here, I have never heard anything about Tony Khan having nefarious behavior. Honestly, I think Tony Khan's most nefarious behavior is sometimes drinking fucking a Juicy Juice box without a straw. You know, the juice boxes that you put the straw in? He's a renegade. He just squeezes it like, ah. That's probably the most nefarious Tony Khan is. Kevin says Ted Turner's 86. Vince is 80. Mike Quackenbush. Wow, that's a name from the past. Paul Heyman, Dixie Carter, Eric Bischoff, Real American Wrestling, or New Japan Pro Wrestling bookers. I don't know what the question is, but if you look at all of them, Ted Turner had an amazing success even outside of pro wrestling. Vince, obviously. I haven't heard Mike Quackenbush and Chikara Pro in quite some time. Listen, Paul Heyman, amazing mind for wrestling, but not a good businessman. Pretty obvious. Although, you got to give Paul Heyman credit, though. He lost his shirt in ECW. You haven't heard Paul Heyman losing money since. I mean, he lost a shitload. But since then, like, he did his outside projects. He did that little entertainment thing. I can't remember his partner. But, you don't hear of him filing for bankruptcy and losing his house and cars being repossessed. Yes, he gets paid very well in WWE. But Paul Heyman, ever since ECW closed down, you don't hear anything negative about the business side of him. But look, everybody is different. Eric Bischoff, yes, Booker, but Eric Bischoff was not an owner, in WCW. So, it's far less responsibility. Doesn't mean he didn't have the pressure. But, and I get it that he was going to have that group with Fusiant to buy WCW. But once they lost TV, which is kind of sad because you would have thought that they would have bought it. Like, you see those TV shows where they flip houses? Sting does that now. I didn't even know that. Sting flips houses. Imagine you want to buy a house in fucking wherever he lives. And you call a real estate, hey, listen, I'm interested in buying this house. Okay, we'll send our real estate agent, Steve, to the house. You show up and you see that. It looks like, I mean, my God, it's like if what's that biker gang? What's that biker gang TV show? Gates of Agony? No, that sounds like a tag team. What's the Agony? What's that TV show? Or Gates of Agony is a tag team. What's that? There's an 8-second delay for everyone else. Sons of Anarchy. I know it was something of. It's like if Sons of Anarchy fucked a chia pet. That's kind of like what Sting looks like right now. He's got that. I mean, that looks nice. Seriously, if I'm married to Sting or if I have kids with Sting, like while he's sleeping for Christmas, like I put a couple extra melatonin in his Juicy Juice and have him sleep a little extra. In the middle of the night, I take little tiny Christmas balls and I fucking have him hanging. That looks like a fern tree. Just imagine him showing up to sell you a house. But you would think that Eric Bischoff and Fusiant would have bought WCW anyway. You always hear Eric Bischoff say, once they lost TV, WCW wasn't worth anything. Well, stupid. Buy it for less. Listen, Ted, AOL, Time Warner, look, it's not on TV anymore. It's not worth anything. I'll give you $4 million. And negotiate. Go to the fucking CNT network, the AAA network. Go to all the other networks. Look, WCW. And if they're like, nah, we don't want it. Then you go to WWE and you say, hey, Vince, we just bought WCW. We don't have TV for it. How's about we sell it to you for $10 million? No. You just bought it for $4 million. Yeah, but, we got to make some money out of this. All right, I'll give you $6 million. You fucking flip it. You never know. Eric Bischoff could have called this Jason Hervey and say, hey, let's set up this new TV show. Everybody flips houses. Let's flip promotions. Look, we got the XWF. Let's flip it. We could offer him cocaine and a fucking Starbucks card. and they'll sell it to us, and then we flip it. Why didn't they buy it at a cheaper price, even attempt to? I know some people are going to say, well, Vince swooned right there and bought it. But you didn't even hear them attempt to. All you heard them say, once TV was gone, it was dead. Buy it and try to flip it to Vince. That's what I would have at least attempted that. You never heard Eric Bischoff. Now listen, between the ropes, underneath the ropes, tangled in the ropes, whatever that UK talk show is, they'll do an interview with him, and one day soon he'll say, we discussed for a minute that we were going to buy WCW at a cheaper price and then flip it to Vince. I guarantee you, at some point, he'll say that. He should have at least said, we thought about flipping it. Even if we couldn't get a new TV deal, Vince probably would have taken it off to us, and we probably could have even made $1 million. You didn't even hear him say that. They just gave up. Even if he says, we had no chance. So he said the same day we wanted to buy it anyway. Rojo Bayo, thank you for being a channel member here for 56 fucking months, man. Thank you, my friend. Much love to you. Much love to you. Tristan, my opinion and take on the Rock Mankind I Quit match and disturbing to watch. This is a true fact about me. I have never watched that match since Beyond the Mat because I thought the match was disturbing and sick when it happened. When you watched it on Beyond the Mat and the camera's focused on Mick's wife, Noelle, and his kids at the time, they were, preteens, they're children, and they're crying and they're playing Stand By Me, I think it was. And every chair shot, you hear her freaking out, you see her freaking out. I'm like, nah. And Vince in the back. Vince is like, Mick, I really appreciate what you did over out there, but don't ever do that again. I would have turned around and fucking cracked this salami over Vince's head. Hey, you want to get shit on your face? I never watched that match ever again since then. Yeah, Kevin is talking about the same thing. Couldn't watch it. And never watched that match ever since. We'll never watch it ever again. Very disturbing. But Mick wanted it. Rock went along with it. I don't blame either one, but it's something I'll never ever watch ever again. It's very, very sick. And very uncomfortable to watch. So Vance is giving a little NFL update for anybody interested. Steelers 9, Packers 7. I'm surprised at how many people online were making a very big deal about that game. Steelers and the Packers. Never knew that they had that kind of rivalry. Never knew that. I do remember, Douche, learning the ropes. Lyle Alzado. I liked Lyle Alzado, man. So that was a sad story when he got sick from the steroids. In the very end, when he got so thin and frail. Oh, but that TV show was cool. Fucking Road Warriors showed up. Well, see, that's all I could. That's my Hawk impersonation. That's all I could do. I used to be able to do more, but I don't. I'm married now. If I go in the bathroom and start doing impersonations, my wife would be like, "What's wrong? What's wrong with you?" If I'm in the bed, I go, "You're fired." She's like, "What are you doing? How old are you?" Roderick is asking, if I was a booker, would I prefer a wrestler like Bryan Danielson, great match quality, shorter career, or The Miz, not as memorable of matches, but much more longevity? If I was forced to choose one, I would choose Bryan Danielson all day, every day. Miz, very, very reliable, but Bryan Danielson connected with fans a lot more. And yes, Miz has been a tremendous heel over the years. Miz is definitely a Hall of Famer in my eyes. Miz, so happy that he was able to overcome early on. He came from the real world on MTV and was considered an outcast, and he got hazed a little bit. Yeah, he thought his shit didn't stink. I remember those days. Hoorah! Who remembers that? I remember that. I got to meet him once. I have told that story before when when the whole cast of Tough Enough, Coach brought them. Coach and the whole cast of Tough Enough went to a Frank Goodman show, and they stood for the whole show. Couldn't believe it, because Frank's shows were very long. They were like 5-hour shows. They all showed up, and very, very cool, from what I remember. Met every single one of them. And I'm very happy with Miz. But as far as someone I would want as a main eventer that clicked with the fans, that the fans really got behind, Bryan Danielson all day, every day. Doesn't mean I wouldn't take Miz. But if I had to choose one or the other, Bryan Danielson. All right, we've gone 90, so we still got a half hour to go. Tomorrow night I will be live right after Raw, DTKCDiscord.com. So it's our Discord channel. It is free. People keep asking me, are we going to go on YouTube in 2026 also? If we do, it'll be in addition to Discord. I like the vibe in Discord. Everybody gets along. You can chat over there, very easy and very accessible too. So if we do that, it will be in addition of. Not saying that it will. I mean, I have other things in mind for YouTube, but Mondays, not so sure. Chris is not an AEW fan. I like AEW to an extent, but it is not my favorite promotion. Not close. I try to zone out the culture, and I try to zone out, the noise online. The problem is that a lot of the noise online is the culture and reflects what's going on there. And it's very hard to get behind a company and wrestlers. You always hear Tony Khan saying that he books for the sickos. It's all nice and everything, but, sicko is not that's not a badge of honor. I get it. He was just shouting out the outcast out there, the ones that don't fit in. Listen, I'm not throwing shade on this. When it came out, I praised the shit out of it. I plugged the shit out of it. I knew I'd never be able to be a guest on there because I can't masquerade myself in that way. But you look at AEW heels. AEW heels has been around now for 5+ years? And it's a wonderful, wonderful place. And if you look at it closely, you see the type of female fans that are there. And what do you see over and over again? If we're being honest, you see, and trust me, there are countless examples. If anybody dares in that company try to challenge me, I will fucking come back with loads of fucking ammo to support it. You see woman after woman after woman after woman after woman after woman after woman who's been battling mental health, who might have the shape of a pear, who may have had relationship issues, who might be lonely, who doesn't fit in with a lot of it. It is a safe place for women to get together. This is not and I'm not trying to throw shade, this is not your Tiffany Stratton's, talking about, did you see the new Maybelline that came out? This is about women supporting women. All different challenges, all different shapes and sizes, all different nationalities, all different walks of life. It is a wonderful place. And what is so awesome about that group is you don't see any of them telling other people that criticize, fuck off. Go fuck yourself. That's the vibe that others in that company should have. And it's not. And it reflects even on the TV. Tony Khan books for himself. He books for the sickos. He does not book for the overall wrestling audience. And the thing is, you always hear every year, Tony needs to start focusing on the casuals. Tony needs to get the casuals. I mean, I don't know how many years in a row Eric Bischoff and Conrad got to say the same fucking thing. And I say that with respect. 4 years in a row. They need to focus. No. That's not who they're booking for. They're booking for the hardcore supporters that never left, They're booking for the ones that want this over-the-top, whacked-out stuff. They want the ones that, get to see their toys on TV. And that's it. You look at AEW from 3 or 4 years ago to now, the vibe is the same. You don't feel like this major progress, with all due respect. You look at AEW from 4 years ago and you say, has Hangman Page grown? Other than age and a little extra wrinkles? Like, you look at him 3 years ago to now and it's like, is he going, like, does it feel development? You look at Hobbs. I mean, how many years in a row do we say, what the fuck are you doing with Hobbs? Then you give him a little push, and everyone's like, oh, look, they're finally going to put the behind Hobbs. And then it leads to nowhere. And you see, this is 3-4 years later. And you see, is there progression? Just because something's on TV for 5 years, you get used to it. But does it feel like he's on the next level? And you see that in other companies. You see people right before you look at Braun Breaker. It might be kind of an unfair example. Look at Braun Breaker. Look at him from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Look at him from 2022 when he was still doing NXT. And, everybody, we were talking about it the other day because it was not too long ago that him and Riddle got stranded at JFK. Meanwhile, I got stranded in Florida. We were crossing paths, but we both got stuck because of weather. You look at that progression, it feels development. There's a shitload of people in AEW. It doesn't feel much development. Once Julie Hart got to the House of Black, does it feel like there's been progress and development? Like she's really put her A game on? No, it's just you get different character names, team names, gimmicks, different outfits. But meanwhile, 3 years have gone by and you're like, huh. Camille's been there almost a year and a half. So select few, yes. But you get behind some people. You get behind, like I said, Deonna Purrazzo somewhere else. And you see what's going on right now. It's like, to me, Ring of Honor's lost its identity completely. Ring of Honor is like the place where, okay, we have these people under contract. We got to use them. We need to do something to Ring of Honor. That's what that's the vibe. I remember Ring of Honor from its original debut back in '02, I think it was. Much different vibe than what it is now. Ring of Honor is just a secondary company. It's kind of like, it's not even minor leagues. It's kind of like, you have a movie and you record a movie and you record 4 hours and you cut like 2 hours of footage off. Just doesn't make the movie. Unless you get DVDs are out now, unless you get unseen scenes, scenes are edited from the movie. That's kind of like what Ring of Honor is. It's like the ones that don't make the movie, but, we still film it anyway. No, it's not AEW's Evolve. Because Evolve is trying to evolve wrestlers to get to the next level to make it an NXT. It's a building process. There's a shitload of people in Ring of Honor that should be fucking near main eventing promotions by now. This is not unknowns. This is not AQA. Remember that girl that got signed? I think her name was AQA. She was in NXT years ago. Look, we signed AQA. They signed Stack's former partner. Like wrestlers like that, you want to see build, the Von Erichs. You want to see Goldust's nephews or whatever. That's Ring of Honor. When you look at Bryan Danielson and you look at Adam Cole and you look at Kyle O'Reilly and a bunch of others that were in Ring of Honor, this was before they became big stars. They were not made for prime time as of yet. Ring of Honor is not that developmental system. That's where, all the people that can't make the movie go. All right. Let's start bringing this home. Rocky Red says PlayStation 2 turns 25 today. You know, probably my favorite console of all time. I got Atari when it first came out in 1977. I was a huge fan of ColecoVision when it came out. ColecoVision blew the Atari away. It blew it away. But PlayStation 2, though, it to me was my favorite because the graphics were enough that it was good enough instead of going to an arcade. But the fact that you were able to play original PlayStation on it too, and then you got the graphics of PS2 on top of it. I spent way too many hours, weeks, months, years playing PS2. PS2 is probably my favorite Put it this way. Nintendo, when it came out, I enjoyed it. I played Super Mario 3 just like everybody else. And even Sega, Sega Genesis with Sonic. But PS2, though, probably the console that I spent the most time in a short amount of time just nonstop playing. I still have. Believe it or not, I could probably show you next week if anybody really wants to see it. PS2, they came out with the Namco collection. It was, I think, 5 or 6 different different CDs. And each one spelled Namco, N-A-A-M-C-O, I think it was. And each CD had a letter. And they came out like once every 6 months. And I bought them original and never opened them. I still have all 6 sealed. And people have told me that they go, for the collection together, it goes for thousands now. I don't know if that's true, but I still got them stored away in a box. I used to love playing the collections, based on the arcades growing up in the 80s and the 90s. Big fan of that. Kevin Milwaukee says Corey Graves in his return match versus Pat McAfee in Saudi Arabia. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't think fans would really want to see it as much as we think they would. I mean, I would love to see Corey Graves get an opportunity to wrestle again. But what's the reason? What's the end game? Is there a stipulation? If they're just going to suddenly start arguing with each other and then have a match, I don't know if Saudi fans really want to see Corey Graves and Pat McAfee going at it. Me, and I'm not saying it because they're from Saudi Arabia. I'm just saying, if you look at the Saudi crowd, half of the crowd, if we're being honest, don't know what WWE is. I mean, you just look at the older fathers and the uncles and the grandfathers. You think they know what WWE is? The kids and the teenagers and the 20-something-year-olds know. And I don't know how many of that group would want to see Pat McAfee versus Corey Graves. Me, I would definitely pop for it. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that would pop for it. I don't know. I just don't know if that would happen. I don't think that would be a match on a high priority. If you do it in the States, shit, I would do that for sure. I would definitely do that. I would even consider doing it even maybe for something related to NXT or something. David Levy says BBC computer there was a game called Granny's Garden, and they would play that in primary school. I could only imagine. That sounds like an awful porn. Granny's Garden. Oh my God. It sounds like a fetish porn. Like somebody who's into elderly. I got to ask you all this because I saw it right before I went live. I put a link on X for tonight's show. How many of you seen that random ad that pops up on X now where it says you can meet senior citizens, senior singles in your area? You will not miss it now because I mentioned it. There's an ad every half hour pops up on X and it says, meet senior singles now. And the woman that they show is dressed in a miniskirt. She looks like she's 30. And you cannot comment on it. Comments are turned off. It's the funniest thing because you see all these people liking it and retweeting it. I'm like, you do realize this is like a 30-year-old Russian chick, right? Like, that's not a senior single. Senior single is Granny's Garden. So, Kevin saw it, yeah. There's so many bots on social media. So many political ones, man. The political ones are fucked up. They really are. I mean, it's just trying to get so much dissension in our country on both sides. It's really fucked up. Here in New York, it's getting out of control with this election coming up with Mandami, Sliwa, and Cuomo going at it. I don't even want to think about that election. I don't even want to think about it. All right. So those are the following football. Steelers 16, Packers 7. There was something else I wanted to bring up today. I can't remember what it was. But for everybody who's live right now, your gut feeling. Jericho, what do you think happens at the end of the year? Just type in AEW or WWE. I would really like to know how many of you out there feel one way or the other, because my gut feeling is that he stays in AEW. I just don't see the worth in the WWE, and that's not an insult on Jericho. Jericho's awesome. Jericho is fucking amazing, his career, and he's a valuable asset behind the scenes. It's about split. Everybody live right now in the chat. It's about split. I just feel like, all right, it's a memorable moment when it happens. He comes out. It'll be interesting to see the WWE fan. Let me put it this way. If the WWE fan base sings Judas in droves, you realize that they're either big Fozzy fans or they are AEW fans. Because one thing that Tony Khan will never admit, and I think this is his biggest mistake. Honestly, guys, I'll say this now. AEW's number one mistake, Meltzer, everybody who is a huge supporter of AEW, their number one mistake is thinking that not many WWE fans watch AEW. I believe half or even more than half of AEW fans also watch WWE. And social media backs that up, because if you ever watch social media X during an AEW Dynamite show or a pay-per-view, look at the people who are reacting and commenting. It's the same fucking annoying people that watch WWE. You don't see all these names come out of nowhere like, who's this person? Who are you? I haven't seen you in ages. Oh my God, look at this person. Holy shit, where did you come from? It's the same people. That is AEW's number one mistake. Making it feel like WWE is the outcast. Forget the Harvey Weinstein stupidity, but I did that poll a couple of years ago. You guys remember? More than half of AEW's fan base also watches WWE. If Tony Khan was truly a huge fan of ECW, then he should have learned that everybody in that crowd, didn't matter if you were white, black, fat, skinny, metalhead, cuisine. Didn't matter if you were from New York, Philly, Jersey, fucking Connecticut. It didn't matter if you were gay or straight. Didn't matter if you had 2 hands or 6 toes. Didn't matter if you were walking or wheeling. If you were an ECW fan, you were welcomed. And that was the thing. Yes, Shane Douglas would cut promos on Ric Flair, and Shane Douglas would cut promos about WWF. Yes, ECW felt like the renegade, the outlaw. But that didn't mean that they ever shit on WWE fans. They never crapped on WCW fans. They never crapped on anybody who supported those groups. They were talking about individual people out there. And that's why even people who left when they came back, they were welcomed. The only exception, really, Public Enemy was never welcomed back. Never welcomed back. Nah. Sandman was welcomed back. Raven was welcomed back. Many people were welcome back. But the thing is, you never went after the fans. And to see this environment online, that is AEW's number one mistake. Not realizing that a huge part of your fan base also watches WWE. And they will never admit that. They will never accept that. Because, you know, like Tony Schiavone the other day did an interview. Tony Schiavone says he doesn't watch WWE. Because we don't want to be like WWE. I don't want to think about WWE because there would be do you fucking realize how much similar you two are, WWE and AEW? You know, yes, AEW does the extra, you know, shit that we talk about, but, you know, you look at the overall scope of things, you look at a lot of the way some people are pushed, even the way people talk, even some of their catchphrases, even some of their fucking gimmicks. It's the same thing. It's more adult oriented, but you can't turn around. Tony Khan even again with the family friendly alternative. That's stupid. That's retarded. That's moronic. That is idiotic. And somebody said earlier, DT, what would I have said instead? I would have said, listen, you know, if you like WWE and it's too expensive, come over to us. You didn't have to say family friendly. The only reason why I say family friendly is because Jey Uso is Uso with children. And you see all these kids around. And you see, that's why WWE has a shitload of kids watching a product. So, oh, look, all the kids are watching a product. Yeah, we're family friendly too. Oh, we look, families, you can't afford them, come to us. It's like the argument I said earlier. I'm going to live on 99-cent drinks and fucking banquet foods because it's cheap, it's okay. Because I could get into a movie theater for $1, it's okay. My mother'd still break my legs. Hey, Ma, I went to Creep Show. I told you not to go, but it was only $1. Oh, that makes it better. That's AEW's number one mistake. Trying to feel like they're anti-WWE and anti, you know, culture also. And they'll never admit that they don't go after fans, but they do. Because the minute a fan criticizes AEW and praises WWE, look at Gail Kim. Oh, you're looking for a check. You're looking for this, whether it's a dirt cheap money or WWE money. Kenny Omega, he turned into a sicko. Kenny Omega, the way he went after Gail Kim, you know, so fucking disrespectful. In my neck of the woods, you'd be called quite a few names. Very lame. All right. I think Pete Rose will go into the MLB Hall of Fame. What's going on with this NBA Mafia stuff? Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to one or two of my customers that were in one of those crime families. And I'm going to ask them, I'm like, you know, have you heard about any of this stuff going on with the NBA? Because I'm curious. I mean, it's funny to see all the former gangsters that do podcasts come out of the woodwork, trying to like school us, like, yeah, how you doing? Yeah, NBA, yeah, we see cards, we go into x-rays, we do this, we do that. You know, meanwhile, they're just using your ad money so they could go to fucking Atlantic City to gamble. Yeah, I did this stupid podcast. I made $1,200. Yeah, I bet it I'm black. You know? Michael Franchese is one of the exceptions that I like. Michael Franchese is always active. I don't include on that. But you knew that motherfucker was going to... Let me put it this way. Thank God Maven was not an NBA player or mafia. I would have taken an axe and cracked my computer screen. Because that motherfucker would have been all over my screen. You're like, what was it like playing in the NBA? Did I ever be teased? Did the mafia ever ask me for money? Did I ever gamble? What was it like to do this? Oh, my God. Thank you, Maven Huffman, for not ever playing in the NBA or being in the mafia. You wouldn't last in the mafia over here. I mean, honestly, if you were in the mafia over here, you'd be Spider. You'd be Spider. And that's only because your last name is not Italian. Not because of anything else. Because I know some of you with your nefarious thoughts, DT, that was racist. No. It doesn't matter if you're Huffman or Smith or fucking Vigoda. If you're not Italian, you ain't in. It's true. And you have to be 100% Italian. I could never be in it because I'm technically 97.8 Italian. 97.8. We're not going to go there tonight. So, oh, by the way, somebody asked earlier, why did I say Amanda Huber was my dad's birthday earlier? Because right before I went live, I wanted to see her age. And she's going to be 41, I think, later this year. And I wanted to see, like, if she was of age as a kid in the 80s and the 90s, and she was. She would have been 10 years old in 1994. So I get why she made the argument, because she probably dealt with that when she was watching TV, being 10, 11, 12 years old. But what happened was, if you do a search, if you type in Amanda Huber age, the first person that'll come up will say born 1985. And I thought it was her. And then I clicked on it, it said January 6th, 1985. I was like, oh shit, look, she's got the same birthday as my dad. And then I saw deceased. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not the Amanda Huber. It was somebody else. Almost the same exact age, but this person had passed away recently. So when I saw that it was deceased, but it said January 6th. So that's why I said that earlier. So Kevin said he just wanted to research her to see if she looked like Nick Wayne's mom. I can't say anything bad about Amanda Huber. I just thought that she definitely should have not used her personal animosity towards Sarah Stock, because it really just made her look ridiculous in this. And, I get it. People lay off for obvious reasons, but I just think, like, that's just unnecessary. Sarah Stock is not a threat to AEW. She doesn't have kids. So parents, yes, common sense, it's up to the parents to choose what their kids watch and not watch. But when you turn around, Amanda, and you say, oh, look at when time it happened, it was posted at midnight. Yeah. Does the tweet delete? Does it turn into a pumpkin at 12:01 a.m.? No, it's there the next day. So if your kids are allowed to be on X the next day, if they're a fan of AEW, look, daddy's old promotion. And they look it up and they see the fish tank spot. Doesn't matter if it was posted at 12 midnight or 1 a.m. It's available on X the next day. That was my whole point. So to turn around and make it seem like, oh, in the 80s and the 90s, I totally agree. My parents watched some naughty things when I was younger, and I couldn't get to see it. I was like, fuck. And then finally, I realized when they went out, I was like, hey, take the butter knife. Anyone ever do that when you were young? When your parents go away and they keep their bedroom locked? There's a reason why they keep the bedroom locked. Either they got money hidden that you're not supposed to see, or they have other stuff, or they have an illegal cable box where you can watch porn. And my parents, I swear to Jesus Christ, this is true. My parents would go out, I take a butter knife, I walk upstairs, boop, just pop the fucking thing and open the door, and the door's still locked. I'm like, fuck you. And then I would turn the cable box on, and it was an illegal cable box, so the numbers weren't the same. Here in New York, WHT, where you watch adult stuff, is channel 68. You just turn the switch on. On the cable box, it might have been channel 71. So what I would do is I turn the box on, make sure I knew exactly what channel they were watching before, what the volume level was, because we had a tenant upstairs. And trust me, you don't want to keep the volume at a loud level, because then they're right above you and you're hearing, and then you hear, and they realize, oh, my dogs are barking. I made too much noise. And then you turn it off. You make sure everything's exactly the way it was, and you close the door and you go downstairs. I stole a lot of $2 bills from my dad when I was young. My dad, because he owned a grocery store, people used to pay with $2 bills a lot in the 80s and the 90s. One day I was looking for like chips. My father kept all his junk food upstairs. There's a reason why I have this. And I opened his bedroom, the closet, and there's chips in there. And I see this giant container. I thought there was chocolate in it or something. I opened the container. There's nothing but like silver dollar coins and $2 bills. I literally grabbed a stack of $2 bills. I'm like, holy shit. And they had red numbers on them. So I was like, fuck. I took them and I just spent them. And my father realized years later. My father's like, what's all the $2 bills? I didn't take them all, but I took a stack. And I'd go out and I think, I'm not sure, but I could swear back in the day, someone would say, you sure you want to pay cigarettes with this $2 bill? You know, so you knew they were worth more, but you're like, I don't care. I need my cigarettes, man. I need my Salem Light 100s. So. All right, we're at 2 hours. We're going to wrap this up. I want to thank you all for a fun evening. We had some interesting conversation. Anybody that might be seeing this and saw what I said earlier, please understand that, you know, I mean what I say what I mean. There's no animosity intended. They're not trying to be snide, not trying to get supporters or haters, not trying to trigger anybody, not trying to get a buzz. I'm just putting a mindset out there that I think enough of you out there feel also, but unfortunately others are either too afraid to make that point or just don't want to because it would upset their fan base. And me, I don't give a shit. Me, I put it out there, you know, no matter what. It might be a little unpopular opinion. Trust me, I see what happens on X. I could post videos of my dog. I could shoot on an asshole, you know, talk, you know, insult an asshole, and a whole bunch of people agree and have fun with it. But if I have a take that, like I do about AEW and this dumb, you know, mentality about it being family friendly, who is going to like that? Who is going to, right, I agree. You're basically telling the AEW fan base and all your friends that had that much, oh, wait, you agree with him? So people just ignore it. People just look the other way. When I almost said schooled Meltzer. When I addressed Meltzer about a month and a half ago, I had over 1,000 likes just using simple arithmetic. This time around, I had a nice, cordial discussion with him, explaining why Netflix is not fudging the numbers. Had maybe 11 likes. I didn't do it for likes, but no, DT, we don't want you to be nice. We don't want you to just have a fun discussion, intelligent, respectful. We want you to call him out. You want to call him a fraud, a fake, an AEW, you know, loyalist, whatever, you sicko. You know, we don't want logic. I've realized that. So Scorpio 1117 says Cross should go to AEW. You doubled down on that. Thank you. You know what's funny? I'm going to be DMing Cross very, very soon, see if he wants to come on, which I know he will. Talk about the book, talk about his latest documentary, talk about what's going on. But I think it was 4 years ago, there were reports that Cross was in negotiations with AEW. I want to talk to him a little bit about that. I still, you know, and the thing is this, and I've said this publicly before, if Cross has had a conversation with Triple H about coming back next year, I don't think he would make that public. And even if he told me privately that was a discussion, I wouldn't make it public. Not all business should be made public. And I don't know how on point I am, but I will tell you this, I'm not trying to be cocky, but I've been very accurate with my analysis and hunches in the past. And even stuff I said Cross's way, he has come back and acknowledged me and Kevin in the past. Spot on, spot on, spot on. My gut feeling is that Triple H or somebody, I think it was Triple H, talked to Cross when contract fell apart, said, look, we're pretty much set for WrestleMania. We're pretty much set for the end of the year. We're focused on Cena's retirement, going into WrestleMania. It just isn't, you know, in the cards right now. So, you know, go out there, make your money. If you get a really good deal somewhere else, absolutely take it if you want to take it. But if you're available, we get towards WrestleMania after that, we'd love to talk again. I honestly think that conversation has happened. I would almost bet the fucking farm that conversation has happened. And I'm going to ask him privately. I wouldn't say it live, but if I get the answer, if it's no, then it's no. But if I get the answer and it's pretty accurate, then I say to him, is this something you would want to talk about publicly? And I don't think he would, because then, people start that hope like, oh yeah, they're going to take him back. Why would you why would you go back after? And then you start creating a buzz that you don't want. So, listen, Scorpio, I'll say this in closing, and I've always been honest. Whether people that I'm friends with like it or not, I felt all along they wanted Cross, they just didn't want Scarlett. Nothing negative against Scarlett. It's just that when you see the level of NXT and you see the level of the women on Raw and SmackDown, it was obvious that Scarlett was with Cross, and you want Cross, but you have to pay 2 salaries if you want Cross. And I think TKO is like, why are we paying 2 salaries? Like, they had no other use for Scarlett. And that's awful to say, and I don't mean it that way, but my point is, like Jericho, I've said this before. Why would WWE really want Jericho to come back? Is he going to pop ratings? You might get 1 week like AJ Lee did. Then after that, the ratings after that first appearance on SmackDown, that's it. It was the same as before. Cody Rhodes. When Cody Rhodes came back, that first week, you had the rating spike, and that was it. When CM Punk had that first confrontation, I think, with Seth Rollins, they had like a 700,000 viewership spike in a quarter hour, and then that was it. So even if Jericho did come back, welcome home, pop a little buzz. Then afterwards, how does Jericho make our business better? How do we benefit? Doing a talking segment? Is he's not, does he do job to Braun Breaker? Like, what do you do with Jericho? And I'm not trying to crap on Jericho. He's been one of my favorites. Trust me, I was a fan of his when he had the Jericho-holic shirt in WCW, the one with all the multicolors. I remember that shirt, one of my favorite shirts that I ever bought from WCW. I was a huge Jericho fan in WCW. I just feel at this age, I don't think WWE needs to bring Jericho as a shot to AEW. Like, fuck you. Look, we took another one of yours away. Yeah, if Jericho wants to come back and work part-time, yeah, welcome home. Welcome home. And it's another person that it feels like, oh, it was just, I took a vacation. I took a vacation for 5 years. I had to leave for a little while. Now I'm back. But what do you do at this point? You use him like Nikki Bella? What do you use? How does he enhance the product? I don't know if he's needed. But Scarlett, again, WWE did not have a necessity for her. That's why we always wanted Scarlett to be more active. We wanted him and Cross to be natural-born killers. Watered down, obviously, no murder. But you wanted him to both cause chaos and, beat up men and women, and just cause a lot of disruption. And they didn't use her much. You could see it's pretty obvious. They just felt she was not needed. She was not enhancing Cross. And listen, the intro was awesome. The music was awesome. The presentation was awesome. They could have done a shitload more with Scarlett. WWE didn't. That's on WWE. That's not on Scarlett. But I truthfully believe TKO's eyes, why are we paying her? What does she bring? And that's the TKO mindset. So you bring in Cross. It's almost like, look at Miro. Look at Miro. Everybody thought Miro and Lana coming in together as a pair. And WWE was like, nah, we have no use for Lana right now. Now, you would think WWE's used Lana hell of a lot more than they ever used Scarlett. And yet they still didn't bring her in. So what does that tell you? That tell you is that then that's not a necessity right now. So, all right, guys, I'm out of here. Much love. Again, tomorrow night, right after Raw, immediately after Raw, DTKCDiscord.com. I'll be live. We'll get into a little Raw recap. We'll definitely have some discussions, and we're going to be the road to Saturday night's main event. We'll see where this goes. We'll see if we get any additional update from Seth Rollins. I don't know if we will, but we'll definitely talk about it. Any news, any fallout from today. I am going to check out a little bit more of Halloween Havoc. I watched half of it so far. Shocked that Tatum Paxley won the belt. I will talk about it on Monday night, but I'm shocked she won the belt. Very annoyed that Dark State got the tag titles back this quickly. Overall, I would say a slightly above average premium live event. I felt it was, let me put it this way. I kind of liked WrestlePalooza more. Doesn't mean it didn't have its moments, but I don't know, just something seemed a little bit lacking with, it just felt average across the board. Just felt very average. And I'm also reminded what NXT truly is. It's about developmental. And yeah, you would think that a bigger name would have dethroned JC Jane, but they gave it to Tatum Paxley. And, that puts in perspective, or it's a reminder of what NXT truly is. So we'll talk about it Monday. I'm going to watch the other half of it tonight, and we'll get into it Monday night. And I thank you as always for your support, and I'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.